Morning. Are you coming in then? Good morning, and what a show we've got lined up for you today. Today's a special one. Chart-topping classical singer Carly Paoli will be here. Yeah. She's pulling a seat up at the kitchen table a little bit later. My old friend Lesley Waters is here as well. She'll be putting a British spin on a stroganoff for us later. And Mr. Michael Keynes, that's the chef, not the actor, we're inviting us to his kitchens of Limpston Manor as he serves up a stunning chicken dish. And don't miss this week's Little Masterclass. We'll be giving you a step-by-step guide in making the perfect summer pudding. And Lesley's not the only friend of mine from Ready Steady Cook and the days of Ready Steady Cook here today, because I'm joined by a man who, whenever I look at him, he makes me smile even now. It's a legend that is Mr. Paul Rankin.
What did I do? What did I do? Nice to be back.
What are you going to be making for us then?
I'm cooking a thing called spaghetti molly malone.
Spaghetti molly malone. I've never heard of that. Where is it? Is that a dish that you've invented, or is this?
Yeah. Well, I mean, cockles and mussels. So when I go to an Italian restaurant, I find it very hard to go past sort of linguine vongole, with the clams. Yeah. And so this is kind of, I guess you could say, an Irish version of vongole. Right. But of course it's not vongole because it's
not vongole.
It's not vongole.
Right, okay.
But the flavours are very similar, and it's delicious. I add a bit more chilli and stuff in there because I like that kind of thing.
So it's a dish that you like, really? You've just invented...
Yeah, I'm sort of pleasing myself today. I don't care...
That's absolutely fine.
Oh, you lot, you don't have to eat it.
You're just doing it for yourself. That's pretty good to me. Yeah. So I thought I'd kick things off today with something for ourselves as well. We've barbecue prawns, and we got some steak, and we got some chicken, because I know you love satay. I know you love that sort of oriental sort of flavours, Asian flavours. First thing is, I'm going to get the steak and the chicken on, so I'm going to use some skewers and bits and pieces, but I've got in here some chicken breast. You can use chicken thighs, and I'm just going to randomly chop this up, really, and then simply grill this, because it's all about the sauce that's going to go with it. So where does your love of Asian food come from? Because I know it's been a passion of yours for years.
Well, I spent about a year in Southeast Asia about 40 years ago, so I got to experience that sort of Singapore street food, the hawkers down in their hunkers, they're like this fanning the thing. This is the way we should be cooking it today.
Is it?
It's like, but it was so tasty, and the smells on the street, and it was so simple and pure, because that's all they did. They cooked satay, and it's like naked...
Simplicity, strip it right back.
When food is simple, there's no place to hide, so you got to get it right,
Yeah.
And that's what they did. It was so beautiful, absolutely.
And did you take that influence, because we're going to talk to you a bit later on about sort of about all the Michelin stars and Belfast and stuff like that. Is that the influence that you took out to Roscoff?
Well, it took me a while to find the confidence to include that into my food, because if you remember, I was trained with Albert Roux at his 3-star Michelin place in Mayfair, so I spent 3 years...
Very different.
...in 3-star Michelin, and so I had all this classic French technique. And then from there, I moved to Canada and eventually to the Napa Valley. And so it was when I was in America that I suddenly got the kind of freedom to sort of start to include things like lemongrass and ginger and chilies, satay, etc., into my French dishes. So I was still cooking in a very French way, but I'd be introducing curry with a little bit of a kick and authentic spicing, etc.
Well, the reason why I want to talk about this and talk about particularly about your travelling, because we're about to meet a lady from Cornwall, an amazing woman called Lisa Newsham. She set up this amazing company called Frida's Peanut Butter. I can see you down the line there as well. Welcome to the show. So, Lisa, thanks for being on the show as well. Good
morning.
So, tell me how it all started. Let's ignore the peanut butter for a minute, because we're going to get to that bit. But tell us a little bit about the family history, because you're surrounded by food in your childhood, your family, and restaurants as well. Tell us a little bit about yourself first of all, and where you brought up and how it all started.
Well, I'm from Lancashire originally. My mum.
I can forgive you for that, by the way. I can forgive you for that. It's all right.
Yes. So my mum has 5 sisters, and they were brought up in rural Lancashire, and they were all became either farmers or caterers. So I think at one stage in my family, we had seven restaurants. I've got 23 cousins, so there's Big family.
Ready-made staff, by the sounds of things.
Yeah, indeed.
So tell us about, because now we're going to come in and come onto peanut butter. You did all that.
Yeah.
Don't mind me, man, asking. You were celebrating 40 years old. You celebrated 40 years. 50. No, but was that the idea behind the road trip? Was that the idea?
Well, yeah, it was a celebration. We both turned 50 within a year of each other, and we thought, yeah, we'll do a special trip. And so we went out to New Zealand. We had a cafe. We're in Cornwall now, obviously. We had a cafe down here, and we'd sold that, and I was working for other people. Andrew's a plasterer by trade, so he'd gone back to do that.
Love this.
And we took this trip, and obviously when you in a camper van, we did a lot of cooking for ourselves, so we were shopping all the time. And peanut butter we love anyway. So we bought a couple of the local brands while we were there. And it was only simple. It was like 100% peanut. But I think one of them in particular stood out to me because it was the way it was branded. It was very simple and artisan. And it got me thinking about the stuff that we have in the UK that can be, they use a lot of palm oil and refined sugar and that kind of thing. And I thought, why can peanut butter not have better treatment? Why can it not be something special and artisan sort of food?
So this all comes about through camping. You ended up with this camper nicknamed it Frida, was that right?
Sorry, the camper van was called Frida, yes.
Yeah, so you did all this, and the reason why the peanut butter is because, you know, I mean, a lot of people would know as well, when you go on holiday, if you go around Europe, you can take little bits of food with you, little bits of your home with you as well. I don't suppose you can do that in New Zealand and Australia.
No, well, yeah, I guess small luggage allowance as well. You don't want to be hauling hefty jars.
Exactly, you can't take food in bits and pieces. So you end up coming back to the UK. How on earth do you start making a peanut butter business and stuff like that? What's the process, first of all? Because I believe you went through a lot of blenders to get just the blended bit of peanut butter.
Well, I had no idea how to make peanut butter, so I literally Googled it and then chucked some peanuts in my food processor and blew it up within a couple of days, really, because it wasn't up to the job.
Yeah.
And then when we decided that the idea possibly had legs, I remember buying a food processor. My first food processor cost £600, and I remember thinking, what am I doing? This is just a crazy amount of money to spend on a piece of kitchen equipment.
Yeah.
But it did the job, and you could get the right texture. When you use more powerful machinery, you can get the right texture. So
now you've gone from this machine now to a bit of a serious bit of kit. I believe you know, over 10 grand bit of kit now. You've got this machine to produce this peanut butter. So I'm going to get Paul to taste a few bits of it. So explain the process of simply making. Don't give out the secret recipe that you've got. Explain the process of how you end up starting with a peanut and ended up with peanut butter.
Well, we buy the peanuts. They're roasted for us, so a dark roast, and it's quite a tough process because it looks very unpromising when they start spinning around in the machine. It just turns into a kind of a powder, and then gradually the oils are released, and it turns into this, you know, lovely creamy butter as we know it.
How amazing is that? Paul's
I've just tasted your smooth peanut butter here. Now, I eat peanut butter almost every day. But as soon as I taste that, I'm going, where is that big flavour coming from? Is that from the recipe or from the quality of peanuts you're buying?
A bit of everything, I think. The peanuts are Argentinian, and we've tried peanuts from all over the world, and they are by far the best. They're clean, they roast beautifully, they smell amazing. And, yeah, one thing my mum taught me was that if you start with amazing ingredients, you can't go far wrong. And I've kind of stuck to that.
I think James and I would concur with that.
Lesley cooking as well. I've got some, so just to recap over here, I've got some steak cooking away nicely. Look at that. Simply on the barbecue, I've just put some salt and pepper with it. Chicken, I've got some shrimp. I've taken your smooth peanut butter. Now, I know you do different flavours. We'll get onto that in a second. but I've taken this smooth peanut butter, I've put in a little bit of coconut milk, I put in a bit of soy, I put in one of Paul's favourite ingredients as well, which is this. I know you love this.
Oh, yeah.
You can say to us what this is. This is you can get it online.
It's an authentic satay sauce marinade thing from Asia.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful, even if you just put a few tablespoons in a curry.
Yeah.
It just boosts the whole thing.
So I've just mixed it together. You just want a bit of water to bring it all down as well. So you start off with plain peanut butter. Explain to the other flavours that you've got now, because I can see behind your shoulder there's a map of all the places that you're currently selling your produce. I think you need to expand a little bit more. Those people down in Cornwall are quite lucky down in that area, that neck of the woods. Explain to us what else are you producing now?
So Cornish sea salt is one of our main ingredients. That goes in most of them, but we do a Cornish sea salt variety, which is just peanuts and salt, and that is our best seller. And then we do sort of the opposite end of the spectrum. We do a coconut one, which is quite sweet. We do chipotle chili. We do black pepper. We do fruit and spice, which is like Christmassy flavours.
Well, hopefully I'm doing this justice for you, but you've got your prawns. Look, we've got a little bit of prawns there. I've got my steak. Which has been cooked on there. This is like a smorgasbord for you, isn't it? Look at this. I've got some chicken.
It's not bad for breakfast, is it?
I've got some chicken, and I've taken this wonderful little satay sauce that I've made, which you can then dip in as well.
What have you got in there?
So this is a little bit of soy, there's a little bit of water, a little bit of oyster sauce, some of this satay marinade, bit of that, a bit of lime juice, bit of lime zest, and some coconut milk into the plain one, and I've just basically mixed all that lot together. It's a nice little satay sauce to go with it. I'm going to do a nice little salad. So I wish you all the very best with the luck with it, Lisa. I think what's great about this is from a lovely little idea, a great story as well. It is fantastic, and the product speaks for itself. So well done. And there you have it. My little satay sauce, cooked by a Yorkshireman for a lady from Lancashire via Cornwall and New Zealand, with an Irishman sat here watching it. That's not bad, is it? I think we've covered most bases as well, but there you go. My lovely little sort of little satay with grilled meats and fish. Done.
Looks fabulous, thank you.
Well, I'll then give you a little bit of a taster of this.
Oh, I'm looking forward to this.
There you have it.
I love the prawns, man.
The prawns on the barbecue with everything else. It's like, look at that chicken. Just like you say, I love the simplicity of all this sort of.
Oh, I could eat that every day in life.
There you go. But you've got to start off with that one. There you go. Right, so we're treating classical singer Carly Paoli to arancini and risotto, surely. Don't miss this week's Little Masterclass. We're going to be teaching you the right way, hopefully, to make summer pudding using the leftover bits of fruit that we have at this time of the year. But join us again after the break when Paul and I will be trying to solve some of your kitchen dilemmas with a little help from Chef Lesley Waters. I'll see you in a bit. This is delicious. Welcome back. Now, I'll be cooking a first course of arancini and risotto for singer Carly Paoli very shortly, and I'm giving you a little masterclass in summer pudding. That's coming up later on this morning. But before that, I'm here with Mr. Paul Rankin, and we've also been joined by Ready Steady Cook pal Lesley Waters. Great to have you here. So
it's like a proper family reunion.
You guys haven't spoken to each other, seen each other for...
Oh, it's about 10 years, much to my shame,
and,
you know.
And mine as well.
Yeah.
So good to see you.
We're terrible at keeping in touch.
I know.
Well, I keep in touch with all you lot because you're always here.
Yeah.
But there you go. What are you going to be cooking for us anyway?
Hey, I'm going to be doing a British version of beef stroganoff.
Lovely.
Okay, so is that using, what, fillet steak or... What
It's going to be using sirloin, actually.
Sirloin.
I think you like sirloin, actually.
Yeah, I like
yeah.
anything. That's great. OK, now, see, these two are going to be cooking for us a little bit later, but right now I thought we'd take a look at some of the dishes that you guys have been making at home. As soon as these two are here, they can chip in as well. First up, a big well done goes to Shelley Albro for this photograph of a beef Wellington that looks as it looks like it's been sort of half demolished by the guests there as well. Looks like they've been enjoying it, but good effort there. Well, beef Wellington's really popular, isn't it? People are trying cooking that. It's really good. Next up, Stephanie Bartlett sent us this picture of beef brisket bao buns. You like these ones, don't you? These are right.
I
do like bao
They're great work there. They taste amazing, these, once you make them.
Do you make those?
I do, in the restaurant as well. I make them quite a lot. They're just delicious. And we got another photograph from Julie Ann Strafford, who had a go at Dipna Anand's beautiful recipe for the keema onion barges. They look absolutely delicious there. Now, as well as your photographs, we've also had loads of questions about food and cooking. So I thought, seeing as these two old mates are here, I thought I'd put them to the test. And this chap actually won Mastermind, so I'm expecting great things from this. So I feel like there should be a light go on both of you, but I'll chip in as well. And for this, I've actually got to put my glasses on for this one.
There's the music as well. Dun, 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 dun,
Were you nervous doing that?
Yeah,
Of course
sitting
he
in
was.
that chair and going,
Of course he was.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
I don't believe it.
Right, so we got Naya Murphy sent us a first question is, what's the best way of using it stale bread?
Oh, breadcrumbs, I
Breadcrumbs?
think, or soaking it in water and making a delicious pepper roux with it on.
Yeah.
Panzanilla. Panzanilla, that's
Yeah.
Italian bread salad, especially at this time of year when the tomatoes.
That would be fresh tomatoes blended, but the key to that, I think, is red wine vinegar, don't you think?
Lots of red wine vinegar.
Why
get
do you
your
think red
seasoning
wine
right.
vinegar then?
I would
Why?
put red wine vinegar in panzanella
Yes,
salad.
it's normal. It's
Yeah.
normal.
I just think it just...
Also, seasoning the tomatoes a little bit early so the juice comes out, it mixes with the olive oil.
And isn't it
the
interesting when you
vinegar.
get a dish like, you mentioned the panzanella, you get a dish like the stale bread, but you also get, using the ingredients like you get the tomatoes, but also with that, it's amazing with sardines, which are banging season at the moment.
Yeah.
They would be amazing.
Of
But
course,
using it as a thickening in sauces, I think, you know, with roasted aubergine or roasted peppers
Like
is
the
a really
Spanish
good.
do with
like the
almonds and
Spanish
stuff,
do
that
is
would be
really
really
good.
There you go.
Of course, if it's rubbish bread, just buck it out.
There you go. There you go, look at him. Bob Turner, is it in Old Wife Tales that you should only eat mussels when there's an hour in the month? Is that true?
They always used to say that you can get
No,
them
it's
all
oysters.
here. isn't it?
Oysters with an R in the month.
There you go.
Yeah. It's only the native oysters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Pacific oysters, the ones that have been brought in, they're perfectly fine to eat all
Yeah.
year round. You do need to watch out for a little bit of algae bloom in the water in the summertime.
Well, I
so-
think with the mussels, really, it's
But they
also-
always used to say that with mussels, didn't they?
The mussels, the size-wise, you get different sizes each time of the year, don't you? So
Yeah.
it's all to do with the tidal and the plankton and everything else and all that stuff that's in the water. But yeah, there you go. Lorraine Walker wants to know the secret of making the perfect roast potatoes.
Well, you know, you've got to get the right...
Irish potatoes.
Well, you've got to get... yeah, of course. You've got to get good potatoes. I always slightly overcook the potatoes when I parboil them, so when I put them through the sieve, I shake them up a bit so they go... I love to roast them in rapeseed oil, in hot rapeseed oil, and my grandmother, with loads of seasoning, and my grandmother would always, and I don't do this, but I know some people do, sprinkle a little bit of flour over the potatoes and toss them.
Now, we've got one last question. I'm going to do two answers in one, really. We've got Harvey M and Stephen K. Harvey would like to know, would you recommend getting a Japanese knife? I'd love to know, is it worth it? Is it worth the money, the Japanese knife? Stephen would like to know, also, a lot of people ask this about how would I sharpen a knife? And do I sharpen it every couple of years? So I've got... because it's an interesting question, this, isn't it, really? And I've got my knives over here. First of all, well, you can tell us about the Japanese knives, because I've got a few in here, but I would say the best way to look after knives is the way you look after them. Don't put them in a drawer and keep them in the drawer. That's where they're going to go blunt. Put them in a knife block or in a case like this that I've got. A lot of the knives that I've got, I put them in a case and actually put one of these guards over it as well.
Oh, that's a
you can
good
tell us
idea.
about the Japanese knife. There you go. Is it worth it? Or isn't it?
If you've got the money, it's definitely worth it. But only if you're going to learn how to look after
But
it.
it's a chef's tool, isn't it, really? So if you, these are my tools. It's like it's like a builder buying the best drill. Or if you got it for one thing, but you've got to look after it. That's
And you've got to learn how to sharpen it on the stone.
yeah.
And that is quite a skill.
This is the whetstone that you're talking about as well. So
that's quite a skill in its own right.
this is the whetstone, not the strimmer that's setting off by my next door neighbour in the garden just now. But this is if you're going to sharpen a knife, like you're saying, the whetstone is the best way. You get different grades and you slowly go down to the finest. The best way to do it is, I think, one of these diamond steels. This is probably the cheapest and most efficient way of sharpening it. And I find the best way, if you put the angle that you're looking for is about 30, 32, 33 degrees. I find the best way, if you put your finger on the steel like that, put the knife like that. That's the angle that you're looking for.
That's a good tip.
So that's where you're looking for. Anything like that is going to go blunt. Anything less than that, you're going to not sharpen it. So that's roughly where you're looking for. And you start off right at the base and right to the top and work your way going backwards and forwards each time you do it. You can do it that way, chefs do it different ways, but that's the angle that you're looking for. And just gradually keep going backwards and forwards like that.
And it almost should sound right, shouldn't it?
Yeah, well, that sound of the strimmer shouldn't sound like sound like that, but that's my next door neighbour. But
do you know what I mean? If you do it wrong, you can almost hear it.
It should sound like that. And
Chefs sometimes show off sharpening their knives, you know. I had a chef who was sharpening his knife like this, and he cut right through this bit of his nose. He's quite a well-known chef.
You've got to be really, really careful. The best way to do it as well.
I'm feeling a little bit nervous being in the middle here.
We're showing our age now. How long we've been on? I was going to say you get the yellow pages, but what you look online now, you can actually get people that will come round and get a few of you in the village, on the street, and get a few of you to club together. And for about £1, £1.50 a knife, they'll arrive in a van and they'll take knives, they'll take your garden shears, and they'll sharpen them.
And they'll wreck them.
Well, they can.
Some of them.
Yeah, if they know what they're doing, they'll just take a little edge on it and put the edge back on it. But the key to it, once they're sharp, keep them sharp and keep them safe from when you're using it as well. There we go. Just happens when the strimmer's going off again. There we go. Now, if there's anything you'd like to learn about in cooking and food or gardening, we do that as well on the show. You can get in touch with us and throw your questions to us here on the show. Right, still to come, we've got a recipe. Well, it's my next door neighbour. I can't help it. It's fine. It's fine. Let go on with it. Right, still to come, we've got a recipe from the multi-Michelin starred chef Michael Keynes, and we're sharing the secret of some cracking summer pudding recipes in this week's Little Masterclass. But I'll see you after the break in just a few minutes when we're firing up the hobs and chatting to classical singer Carly Paoli. And I've probably got 3 minutes. I might as well mow the lawn as well where I'm at it. I'll see you in a bit.
I'm going to pay him a visit.
Welcome back. Now we're teaching you everything you want to know about making classic summer pudding in this week's masterclass. But first, I'm here with a singer whose albums set the classical charts alight, and a new one is definitely set to do the very same. It's the brilliant Carly Paoli! I'll just say welcome back, because I think Jack Savoretti's been on more times than you. So the Italian clan are catching up.
We keep coming in, we
Exactly.
come for good food.
So congratulations on the album. We're going to talk about everything else since you were last on here, because I know you're a big fan of food, but also I cannot believe you asked me to do a risotto, being sort of half Italian. So this is a wild mushroom risotto that I'm going to do, and I'm going to do that with a little arancini. So we're going to do a bit of both, really. So the first thing I'm going to do is start off and chop my onions. Now, I think with the onions, you want to make sure they're sort of the same size as the rice. So when you're doing this, slice it through, keep the root on, slice it that way, and slice it that way. So,
exactly how I do it.
if you can't do this, stick it in a blender, and you end up with a puree.
Sounds
it's the best
more
way.
like
But
it.
you want the onions to sort of be the same size as the rice, really. That's what you're looking for. Garlic, just give it a little crush, and we start that off. Now, the key to this, really, I suppose, when you start it all off, is not to make sure the pan is too hot, because you certainly don't want to brown the onions and the garlic. You just want to soften these with a little bit of butter. So, first of all, I mean, last time you were on here, your album went straight to #1.
It sure did.
So hopefully
Exciting.
this one as well. This one launched yesterday.
Launched yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm super excited about it.
This is a different sort of venture from you. Last time you were on it was sort of Carly Paoli and Friends and that kind of stuff.
No, this is an album that takes me back to kind of the music I love. It's almost a guilty pleasures album. So it completely celebrates music from the movies.
Right.
From Breakfast at Tiffany's, Sabrina, Sleepless in Seattle. It's just got glorious movie moments
And
in
I guess
there.
the thing about that is that you can go right back to the 20s, the 30s, 40s, 50s, and it is a bit white wine in there, by the way, in the rice. I've just put the rice in and just going to sweat that off, and then we put in the stock. But the choice, it's difficult to choose what you want to do, I suppose, isn't it? Really?
Oh, honestly, I started with so many songs at the beginning. I really had to cherry pick what was going to work, because there was just so many wonderful choices to go for. And it really takes me back to, I grew up like lots of children watching the Disney movies. I was telling your team earlier, I used to mimic Sebastian from The Little Mermaid.
Right.
And then my mum introduced me to the Hollywood movies, the lovely musicals with people like Gene Kelly and Judy Garland, and I just fell in love.
What was it? I mean, was that because your parents, your mum's here today?
She is.
Your mum's here today. You've just flown in from Italy.
Yes, flew in last
Flying
night from
back out tonight.
Straight back to Calabria this evening.
And you're going out to work as well.
I am,
doing
yes.
all these
Don't
concerts.
remind me.
You're going to all these concerts and stuff like that. You can't have imagined well, certainly as a young kid, that it would ever turn out the way it has, do you? Because you got some lucky breaks. I mean, tell us about the lucky breaks. Wasn't that off a school bus and bits? Wasn't that sort of stuff?
Well, and I mean, my big moment was I got spotted singing at a special event, and I was spotted by a Swiss watch company.
Right.
So before I knew it, they'd made me a brand ambassador, and I was performing on an international platform with the likes of Jennifer Hudson, Steven Tyler, and I had David Foster accompanying me on the piano. It was...
But I suppose classical music, there's no hiding place, is there really? You know, because
No.
You look at music nowadays, and some of it can be digitised now, I suppose, AI and all that kind of stuff. It must be frightening for musicians. But you doing what you do, I mean, sometimes don't even have a microphone. It's just...
Well, I think it's more the sense we've lived with a lot of the classical repertoire we've lived with for centuries. So, it's interesting to see how each artist will be able to bring something new to the rep, but without varying too far away from what the composer originally wanted.
Right.
This album, on the other hand, on a completely different spectrum, it absolutely requires you to put your heart and soul in there.
Yeah.
It's a much more intimate singing experience.
I suppose with movies, it's personal choices, whether you've got to then... What you like is not necessarily what your audience likes and everything else. You've got to pick different stuff from different genres, different age brackets. In the present day, and you mentioned Disney, you've got so much to choose from even with that, haven't you, really?
I mean, I generally call myself quite an old soul. And I grew up loving the music of sort of Frank Sinatra, so you've got the Wee Small Hours on there. I'm a huge Audrey Hepburn fan, so 2 of her movies made it on. You've got Moon River from Breakfast at Tiffany's and La Vie en Rose.
Was that your mum that was playing that? Is that... Because I remember my mum playing music. I always remember... Johnny Mathis came on the radio the other day and I went, that's my mother. I remember that. Do you know what I mean?
That's what it conjures memories, which is what makes it really special. No, my mum's addition to the album was Fix You. That was her addition.
Right, okay.
She loved that song, and I'm really pleased
And
that
what about
for once I let her have her own way.
What about when people are doing that, really? Because then you have to make it work. I'm assuming there's some sort of songs and modern songs or whatever it is that just don't work with the classical.
And there was quite a few of those, songs that you absolutely love and would have loved to have been able to put your own signature to, but you knew instantly it wasn't going to happen. I had friends suggest Never Enough to me from The Greatest Showman. My niece was responsible for the only duet on the album.
Right.
So, of course, going back to that Disney world, she wanted I See the Light from the movie Tangled.
Right.
Rapunzel. And my duet partner is Eric Benet. So, incredible soul singer. He just brought so much to the song. It's another dynamic altogether.
Now, I mentioned the fact that you're going back to Italy as well, straight after this, because I know that southern Italy is a big love of yours from your family as well, really.
Yeah.
But being able to go over there and perform and bits and pieces, you're performing in some surreal places. The other week was the Vatican.
I was, yeah.
55 million people.
It was. It was a global broadcast.
Right.
And it was kind of a full circle moment because my career really started in Italy. Back in 2016, My Ave Maria was selected as the official song for Pope Francis's Jubilee. So
how does that come up? Was that mother that sent a tape in? How does that work?
No, right. I did a concert for a charity in Terme di Caracalla, which is where the Three Tenors first premiered, and on that particular occasion...
I served chips to Jose Carreras, aged 8 years old.
That's very cool.
That's claim to fame.
That's very cool.
I'm proud about that.
I have sung with him. He did tell me about your
No, he
chips
didn't.
as well.
Didn't have a clue it was even me, because I had my motorbike helmet on.
So on that particular occasion, there was a representative of Pope Francis in the audience, and a few days later, they asked if they would be able to use this particular song for his Jubilee.
Right.
So here we are, full circle. This was for the Pope's humanitarian foundation.
Yeah.
And it was, like I say, it was a global live stream, you know, with the likes of Andrea Bocelli, Roberto Bolle, Hauser. And it went great. It was fine. No time to be nervous.
So, look, but I've got the Parmesan cheese here. What you need to do now is leave it to rest a little bit before you serve it. I've got my little stock reducing away nicely. That's just to finish off this risotto. But to finish off the risotto with a mushroom, this is the key to it, I think. A little squeeze of Amalfi lemon.
Beautiful.
The piping bags, just show you. You start off with a little triangle like that. You then hold the thicker end, fold this bit over, like that, and you end up with a little point. Break it like that, fold it over, and you've got yourself a little piping bag. You can then fill with this mayonnaise. Now, I've made this mayonnaise, and I've got Madeira in it, because this is going to go with the arancini. Because Madeira mayonnaise with arancini is just, you've got a little piping bag like that, fold it up, and it comes out. And then you can take, I'll do the arancini first, but lift this off. There, your nice little arancini like that. Cook gently, look, you see, they're nicely cooked.
They look beautiful.
And then we can then pop these into our little pots, like that. Another one on the top. And then what I like to do with this mayonnaise, you don't have to, of course, you can just serve it with the arancini as it is, but I just think they're just great. Over the top.
Just like that.
Just like that, you see.
Amazing.
And then a little bit of Parmesan cheese over the top. There we go. You've got your nice little arancini for that one. Your risotto is that I just leave it just to sit here, because you can see it starts to thicken up a bit, which is what you want. If you want to loosen it down, a little bit more liquid, and then we can grab our plate, and you can grab a spoon, and then I can just warm this up ever so slightly, and then just finish that off as well, really. So while I'm just going to finish that off, why don't we have a listen of your new album? So this is an amalgamation of 3 little tracks that you put together. So
yes,
while I finish off this little risotto, just have a listen to this. Your mum was right. Coldplay, you see.
She was.
Coldplay, right. So we're just going to
away.
finish off this risotto. You can tell when the risotto is good. We just shake it like that, and it just falls on the plate. We then take our lovely mushrooms, which then sit over the top, which I've sorted up. You can put the mushrooms through it if you want. It's entirely up to you, but I think a few of these mushrooms on the top are just lovely. And then I keep a touch of green oil in the fridge, which is herbs that you got. Bit of that. And then, of course, we then take some fresh Parmesan over the top. And there you have your first dish, a classic wild mushroom risotto with a wild mushroom arancini.
That looks incredible.
Done.
Beautiful.
Done. Right, bon appetit.
Oh, thank you very much.
Mushroom
Look at
risotto.
that. Gosh.
Arancini. There you go. I think the lemon, I think it's the I think the lemon in it is the key.
That's delicious.
It's delicious.
It was worth coming back from Italy.
Thank you very much. You've got another one to taste before you get the flight. But there you go. You're going to be performing for us a little bit later as well.
I
There you
will
go.
indeed.
And as well as that, we've got a masterclass in summer pudding coming your way. And Lesley Walters will be back behind the hobs a little bit later. We'll see you after the break when we took into a Michelin star recipe of chicken from the 2-star chef, Mr. Michael Keynes. Happy with those? Mm-hmm. Not bad then. See you after the break. Welcome back. Now, Paul Rankin will be cooking for us very shortly. And also, I've got a recipe from a good mate of mine, Lesley Walters, in a bit. But first, I'm still here with my guest, Carly Paoli. You're going to finish off this risotto. You're going to be performing for us a bit. What are you going to be performing?
Well, I thought with this fantastic food, it would have to be What a Wonderful World.
Thank you very much. And you've need time for your vocal cords to tune in. So while you're doing that, why don't we enjoy another classic recipe? This time, we're going to go for a dish from one of the most talented chefs working anywhere in Britain today, from Limpston Manor in Devon. Here's the fabulous Michael Keynes. Not the actor, he's amazing as well, but this is a 2-star Michelin chef, Michael Keynes, and he's serving a stunning plate of chicken from his hotel and restaurant. Enjoy this one.
So today we're cooking pan-roasted chicken with some lentils in red wine sauce, button glazed onions and Giraud mushrooms. So first up, our lentils. So add the lentils into the pan, and all we're going to simply do is add all of our vegetables. So we have the onion spiked with clove, shallot, carrot, garlic, bouquet garni for me, which is leek, a little bit of celery, and inside that we've got the herbs, parsley stalk, thyme and a bay leaf wrapped up, and then the bacon smoked rind. Now we add our water, and also we're using a little bit of chicken bouillon just to intensify the stock. Whilst we're waiting for that to come to the boil, we'll get our pearl onions on to get them caramelised. For this, you just need a pan, and then we're going to add to that our onions with some thyme, water and a pinch of sugar and some butter, and then we're going to get that cooking, and when the water reduces, it's going to caramelise the onions. So next up, our chicken red wine sauce. This is quite simple to make. You just need a really good chicken stock, which I've already made. And now we're going to roast these bones in some hot oil, and then we're going to get some nice colour on them. So straight up, into a very, very hot pan, add some oil. Be quite generous, and then we're going to very carefully add our chicken bones. We're using just the winglet. You needn't do anything straight away. Just let the heat get through the bones, and then start to stir them once you've got a lovely colour of light brown on the winglet. Very, very hot, so be careful. So look, beautifully caramelised. So now we're going to add a little knob of butter just to help the caramelisation before we add our vegetables. There we go, James. A little bit of butter in there for you. Of course, butter burns at a lower temperature, so you get a lovely caramelisation on these bones. That's what we're looking for. And a lovely smell of the butter, sort of noisette flavour, goes through the sauce as well, which is delicious. Now we're ready for our vegetables. So, celeriac, carrot, leek, and onion. Get a lovely stir. Now turn down the heat a little. And now the garlic and the aromatic herbs of thyme and bay leaf. And then finally, a couple of black peppercorns, and it smells delicious. All of those flavours building up, the garlic, the thyme, and of course the bay leaf as well. Lovely caramelisation, and now we're ready for the red wine. Make sure your red wine's not too aggressive in tannins, so something like a soft Merlot, Pinot Noir is actually really, really good. It doesn't have to be too expensive, but at the same time, the better the wine you use, obviously the better the sauce. But the best advice I can give you when cooking is not to use a super Tuscan or really strong tannin wine, but something soft like a Merlot, as I say, and Pinot. We're just going to reduce that by 2/3 to 1/3 before adding the chicken stock. This is a lovely autumnal dish. It's actually very good with pheasant as well, so you can swap out the chicken breast with a lovely pheasant breast and do exactly the same using some of the pheasant bones and chicken bones together. But what I love about this time of year as well is using the root vegetables to serve with it. So if you want as an accompaniment, you know, look to serve some, you know, root veg like celeriac, mash is great with this dish, or even just some carrots that have been cooked beautifully with a little bit of tarragon. Very, very lovely. So now we're ready for the chicken stock and a touch of cream. And a pinch of salt and pepper. So here we are, just skimming the stock or the sauce when it comes up to the boil. And then we're going to reduce that to a simmer, let it cook out for about 45 minutes before we then pass it off and reduce it to make our red wine sauce. There we go. Now the onions are just about ready to caramelise. The water's gone completely, and now we're left with the sugar and the butter. And we're going to just beautifully caramelise those onions. So once we've got a little bit of colour on the outside, we're going to glaze that by adding a little water back into the pan and getting all those caramels and just looking to glaze these wonderful onions. There we go, they're ready to be served a little bit later with the chicken. And now onto the chicken breast. Beautiful chicken breast. So just simply season the breast with salt and pepper and then put them skin side down in a nice hot pan. So this chicken is from Windout Farm by my farmer friend Sam. And they're actually grass-fed. And they've got this beautiful colouring on the skin. Natural colour of the yellow. A lot of people think that you get that from corn feeding, but actually you get it from grass feeding as well, where they just let the free range and scratch their living through what's left in the land and through the grass. So it's absolutely fantastic. So, nice bit of butter now into the pan, just to help the colour. Add some thyme, some aromats. Love that, don't we? We love a bit of aromats, chef. I'll turn it over. And then when they're nicely caramelised, pop them in the oven skin side down for about 10 to 15 minutes. So I've got some cooked lentils here. It's important that you cook your lentils till they're nice and soft. Now we're going to add some of my reduced chicken red wine sauce. And we're going to finish that by cooking out the lentils. And we'll add some parsley and a knob of butter, a la James. Let that cook out. Beautiful Giro mushrooms. These are from Scotland. This time of year, absolutely fantastic from Scotland. Look at that. Everything's ready. Now it's time to dress. So first of all, your lentils. Our button onions, which we'll just put around the plate, and a few mushrooms with the parsley. Delicious. Then our chicken. And a little bit of red wine sauce. And there we have it. Our pan roasted chicken with lentils, pearl glazed onions and Giro mushrooms. Enjoy.
OK, we've enjoyed a dish from one of the finest chefs in the country. Now it's time to enjoy a special performance from one of the country's greatest classical singers, performing What a Wonderful World from a new album, The Movie Collection. It's the one and only Carly Paoli. She's just outside.
I see trees of green,
red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
How fantastic is that? How fantastic is that? Now, I'll be cooking with Carly again at the end of the show. And Lesley Walters, we're putting her on spin on some stroganoff a little bit later. But I'll see you back here in a few minutes when Chef Paul Rankin, it'll be his turn with the cooking duties, not singing. He's 1 out of the 10 that cannot do it. Trust me, I've listened to him. But he's cooking a classic seafood dish using pasta. I'll see you in a few minutes. Welcome back. Now, coming up, I'll be sharing the secrets of summer pudding in this week's Little Masterclass, and I'll be serving up a plate of sea bass ceviche for singer Carly Paoli a little bit later. But first, I'm here in the kitchen with Chef Lesley Walters, and we're about to enjoy a dish from a maverick genius. He wrote that bit on there. Maverick genius he wrote that bit.
Love it.
I wrote this bit, who became the first chef to win a Michelin star in Northern Ireland. It's the brilliant Mr. Paul Rankin.
I like the maverick genius.
You like that?
I mean, who wouldn't like that?
I thought that one.
Yeah.
Right, so talking about maverick genius and this dish, what is this? Is this like a... I know you like vongole, because we mentioned that.
Yeah,
what are you going to be doing then?
Well, I mean, it's just like a pasta dish with mussels and cockles. The first thing I'm going to make is like a chili garlic oil. This is something that I do all the time and have done for the last 30 years. And I normally cook it in the microwave.
Oh, in the microwave?
Yeah, I put on a little bit of oil and just whack it in the microwave, and it's done in...
He's changed. I'm going to take that maverick genius out.
But you're talking home cooking. This is not restaurant cooking, you know?
No, but, I mean, that's really a good idea to do it in the microwave.
You know, if you buy a chili garlic oil in the supermarket, it's terrible.
It's horrible.
You know, it's got no oomph, it's got no personality.
I'm just bringing one out, actually.
Oh, yeah? I'll buy that one, Lesley. I'll buy it. You can have the garlic as fine or
I've never really asked you
want.
this. Your childhood, where did your love of food come from? Because I never really asked you this when we were doing the ready, steady cook. You never got a chance to ask any questions like this.
My mother was a really good cook.
Right.
Really good cook. And she was obsessive about ingredients. So we grew up with very good food and very good baking. But then when I went traveling, eventually I had to make some money in order to you know, to stay in Canada kind of thing. And I ended up...
That's where you were travelling, clearly, in Canada.
Yeah, I was there with my wife, Jeannie. She suggested I fake it as a waiter in order to make some money.
See, I never knew this.
So she gave me a crash course in how to be a waiter. And I went up to these guys in Vancouver and said, I worked at this remember in London you used to have Aberdeen Angus Steakhouse.
Yes,
so I remember,
yes.
oh yeah, I used to be a waiter at the Aberdeen Angus Steakhouse in London. And they gave me a job. And I don't know, I made it somehow. And
I bet you were a good waiter, actually.
yes, I was.
Because after the gab, that's what it is.
But you know, the other thing that it was, because I grew up in the church and stuff like that, I was really good at talking to old ladies and all this sort of stuff, you know? I could talk to anyone because we had to do that, you know? You had to be polite to people in and around the community. So what you're doing here, James,
look at this.
This is squid ink pasta.
Yeah.
Now, you know, I call this dish spaghetti Molly Malone, but today we're doing it with squid ink pasta. And the first time I ever did this on telly was for a show that I was doing called Gourmet Ireland.
Right.
I remember that.
And we didn't have enough squid ink. And it's like, you know, we had a whole studio and about 10 people waiting for us. And we're like, what are we going to do? And I'm like, this is TV, right? Go down to the pen shop and get some of that Schaefer black ink. And so we went down to the pen shop, got the ink, put it in it, cut, then the grave. Out comes this beautiful thing, looks like a Michelin tire. Of course, no one tasted that particular one. But, you know, remember when we were learning about telly? You know, we kind of wanted everything to be perfect, and, you know, no one ever really noticed. You know,
I actually think people like it when things actually don't go completely.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
You know,
exactly.
they like it when things go wrong. Sorry, you're going to...
Look, I've got some oil. I've got some parsley stalk, some garlic, a little bit of onion, a little bit of white wine going in there. I'm just going to cook this for a minute before I add in the mussels. Now, I call this spaghetti Molly Malone, obviously, because cockles and mussels are alive.
You've got a good voice, too.
It's from my time in the X Factor, baby.
I know. I missed out on that. I do.
I didn't realise this until I was reading. I thought I knew about all the people that I work with on Ready, Steady, Cook. I didn't realise this. X Factor.
You did quite well, if I seem to remember.
We were like 4 drunk blokes down the pub. Everyone kept us in because we were terrible. We were funny, like, you know.
It was you.
Just turn that on.
Aldo,
Yeah.
Ross, and Jean-Christophe. More crazy people you couldn't come across in your whole life. So, a nice steamy atmosphere here. You cranked that up, did you?
Yeah, I cranked it up.
Good man.
So how do you end up back in Ireland? I mentioned
I was telling the story about how did I get into cooking.
Well, exactly. You diverted. You went off piste.
Yeah. Funny,
As
I
you
never
normally do.
Funny, I never do that.
Yes.
No, I never do that. So I ended up working in the restaurant business.
Yeah.
And I ended up falling completely in love with it. It was like I'd found my tribe. And then when we went traveling, we were talking about opening our own restaurant. And we were sort of thinking, well, we need to know more about food, because you know what chefs are like? Chefs are terrible. They'll leave you in the lurch, they'll hold you to ransom, so we need to learn about food. So I bought my first ever cookbook in a second-hand bookshop in Kathmandu. Katie Stewart's Sunday Times.
In Kathmandu?
In Kathmandu, yeah. Then the second cookbook I bought was Elizabeth David's Italian
the best book.
Food. And I bought that in Kashmir, in Jammu in Kashmir. Astonishing. I got so lucky with those books. So, you see, these are ready now?
Yes.
They're all open. We got that beautiful aroma.
Yeah.
Just getting that one in there. So what we want to do is just strain them off and save that precious, precious juice.
Oh, smells amazing.
Yeah. Wow, it's quite a lot, actually, isn't it? Help!
And this is my job, then, is it, picking them?
Yeah, if you could pick some of them
thanks for that.
me, I think that'd be great.
Do you want some in the shell as well?
Yes, please.
OK,
yes.
so you end up buying these cookbooks.
And then, when we got to Australia, I was also working as a waiter, but I started to cook in the kitchen, and I fell head over heels in love with cooking. And I wrote a mad letter to Albert Roux saying, will you give me a job as a chef? I want to dedicate my life. And Albert Roux actually took us out for dinner as our interview. So he gave us a job. He gave Jeannie a job working in the private apartments. And then he gave me a job as a dishwasher. Could I get that liquor from underneath this, please? So in goes the liquor. And just look, leave the last little bit behind because of the grit. We want to reduce that down slightly.
So you started in the pot wash. That's where I started working.
In the pot wash, and then within 6 months, they moved me into the kitchen.
Yeah.
But I had to prove
that
I really, really wanted it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think
then I'm going to fast forward now to Belfast, which was my first question originally before you went off-piste again. Mrs. Star, is that what you wanted to achieve?
No, I got it completely by accident.
Right.
Was it called cayenne or paprika?
Roscoff.
Yeah.
So I was in a meeting with my accountant and my brothers, and this after a year and a quarter, and they said, "Oh, you've lost £60,000. You're in trouble," you know. Then the phone rings, and it was my manageress, and she went. I said, "Gillian, calm down. What is that, Gillian?" And she said, "The Belfast Telegraph have just called. We've got a Michelin star." And I said, "Well, that's no good now because we're going to have to cook pizza and pasta." And I slammed the phone down. And then my brother said, "Well, the Michelin star, that's a pretty big deal." And so we decided to lower our prices.
Yeah.
So you could have a 3-course lunch for $10.50 and a 3-course dinner for $15.50. This is in 1991. And from then on, we were absolutely packed.
It is amazing, the prices. Just over, I don't you see, over Leslie's shoulder there's a wonderful menu that a viewer sent me this, and I treasure it dearly. This is a menu from Keith Floyd's restaurant just outside Bristol at Clifton, and this is when Keith Floyd used to write the menu, and clearly he used to write the menu daily, but obviously couldn't be bothered to change it on Thursday. So that was Wednesday menu, and then just wrote, actually in blue pen, we'll just put Thursday on it as well. But look at the prices on it. You had like ratatouille and chicken Kiev. And
that's hilarious, isn't it, really?
It's magical.
That is magical.
Every time I work, I just sort of look up to it and go, yeah, that's a...
Did you ever meet him?
He was the guy that... This is stories all day long, isn't it? It was actually the chap that got me into television. I think you guys had already been booked to do this show called Ready, Steady, Cook. I was like the newbie after sort of year 2, maybe. And I just happened to be a head chef of a restaurant down the road. And then Keith Floyd came in for a meal, said he'd booked a restaurant table, but clearly hadn't, with Lloyd Grossman, because they were filming in the area. There was a lady called Mary Ramsey. I always remember this.
Mary Ramsey.
She was doing this new cookery idea.
We loved Mary.
And that was it. And then she said, "Have you got an agent?" I went, "I can't even afford a house, so I don't even know an estate agent." And that was it. That's how it all started.
So,
anyway, moving on to pasta.
The juice in there, reducing it with a little bit of tomato. In goes the pasta, not quite cooked. It's just coming up now. We're just rewarming
the key to this is the liquor, though, that you cook the meat in it, really.
I now have the basil and parsley going in. In goes the chili garlic oil, and we're ready to serve. Yes, please.
That looks so pretty.
You're not bad at this, are you, chef?
Well, it's the sort of stuff I like to eat, so...
You still make the same amount of mess that you used to do 20-odd years ago on Ready, Steady, Cook.
I am a messy cook, aren't I?
I'm
a
everywhere.
messy cook too. I'm a messy cook.
You know what? This stuff is not holding together as well as normal spaghetti, so we'll just go for...
Well, that's because you used the wrong pasta. You didn't use the one that I made.
Oh, was I supposed to use that one?
Well, technically, yeah, I made that for you, but you've used the other one, but it's fine.
It looks pretty amazing.
So normally I'd sort of twirl that nicely.
So good.
Looks good, though, doesn't it? Oh. It doesn't matter, that looks good anyway. Look at
That looks beautiful.
Do you want another plate to put the rest of it on?
Yeah.
Why not? There's another plate to put the rest of it on.
Feast for the eyes.
Let's switch that off. There we go.
It's kind of mysterious, isn't it? Well, that is some generous portion.
So what's the name of this?
This is spaghetti Molly Malone.
Oh.
Mr. Paul Rankin, everybody. Well, there we go, Lesley. Dive into that one.
It's kind of dramatic and spooky almost, isn't it, with the black pasta. But of course, you can use spaghetti or linguine if you want to, you know?
Yeah.
I love that.
It's almost like, as a cook and a chef, you're doing almost nothing except letting the cockles and mussels.
You've got great seafood in Northern Ireland. You do.
Mm.
That area from Northern Ireland right up to sort of Scotland as well. You've just got amazing seafood. But there we are. Brilliant, brilliant. Hasn't lost it, even after all these years. Cracking dish there, Paul Rankin, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Now it's your turn next, Lesley, as well. What are you going to be cooking for us?
I'm doing a British take on beef stroganoff.
Right. Sounds pretty good to me. All right. And that'll be serving it very shortly. And I was cooking, well, not cooking, but curing a dish of sea bass for singer Carly Paoli a little bit later. But join us after the break, because I'll be back in a few minutes with a masterclass in summer pudding. I'll see you then. Welcome back. Now, there's still plenty more to come from singer Carly Paoli, and my old ready, steady cookmate Lesley Waters will be cooking next. But first, it's time for this week's little masterclass. I love doing these, and this week I'm going to give you a step-by-step guide to making a classic summer pudding. Now, every sort of maybe 4 or 5 years, I like doing this on the show because it just reminds us of all the amazing fruit that we've got in this country, really. Particularly soft fruit. Depends on where you live, to be honest with you. Up in Scotland, you'll still get raspberries September, October. They're just, I mean, I've got raspberry plants that are still producing in October, November, really. They're absolutely amazing, depending on the weather, of course. So classic summer pudding. Usually, when I was a young kid, my mum would make this and then send me out into the garden to find a brick and put it over with a little bit of cardboard on it, leave it in the fridge for about 2 days and then turn it out, and you'd end up spending about 4 days cleaning the bottom of the fridge as it leaks out everywhere. This is a much quicker and simpler version. So this one, first of all, we take a selection of different fruit. It's entirely up to you what you want for this to make the sauce, first of all, but I like to incorporate predominantly the raspberries, first of all. They're going in there, together with some fresh strawberries. So we've got some raspberries, like that, and I've got some strawberries, which I've just hulled, these ones. And what I'm going to do is just blend these. Now, like I was saying, this whole point about this, when fruit is this good and this good in season, what you don't want to be doing is adding any additional sugar to it. So you just want the flavour of the fruit. Now, you can alter the colour of it slightly. If you start off with red fruit like raspberries and strawberries, and then you start to use, if you want some blackberries and mulberries, that kind of stuff, every now and then you can drop in one of these just to change the colour a little bit. What I would advise is not to put too many of these in the beginning, because otherwise you're just going to do it with the dark. If you see the colour starting to change a little bit, maybe add one more, and that'll darken it down a bit. Again, no sugar, no lemon, just as it is. So that's our nice little bit of sauce. I'm just going to keep blending that as well. Meanwhile, we can turn our attention to our filling. The filling, again, I'm going to take the same sort of fruit, but this time just chop them up. So beautiful fresh strawberries, some raspberries, blackberries. Again, we're just going to chop these up. Now I'm going to do it in a little small molds like this, but you can replicate how my mother did, my grandmother did, and do it in sort of a bowl as well. The same process applies when you actually start to make this, but in essence, this is a really quick dish. You don't have to wait 2 days. You can make this in less than 10 minutes and serve it. It's really, really quick, like that. And you can, if you wanted to, freeze these. So you can make them now when the fruit is so good, and then pop them in the freezer and just defrost them and serve them with the sauce. It's another great way to keep them. So well, I'll show you where you get to before you freeze them. So the blackberries can go in, a few bits of strawberries in there as well. There we go. We can put a few bits of red currant if you want as well, because I love red currants. They're going to go in there, like that. So we just take these, strip them off there. Now, it's entirely up to you whether you want to leave it like this, or you can incorporate other flavours in. Sometimes you can put mint in there as well. Other times you can put things like basil. Basil and soft fruit work amazing. People think strawberries and black pepper is a great combination, but trust me, basil and soft fruit like this just tastes amazing. The basil tastes a bit like pistachio nut when you come to eat it in this, and people often wonder what the flavour is. But if you've got any little bits of basil, you can pop that in there as well. But the sauce here is now done. So what we're going to do is you're going to take this, make sure we get it all out. There we go. Now, what you gain in flavour from this, you actually lose in quantity. If you were to cook these berries, you end up with more liquor. But I don't think the flavour is as good. Now, like I was saying, at this point in time, this sauce will freeze as well. So once you get to this stage, you can pop it in a bag, pop it in the freezer, and just use it to finish off. You probably have to call it winter pudding, to be honest, or autumn pudding rather than summer pudding, but you want to get rid of all those sort of seeds. So pass that through. But you end up with this lovely, rich, thick sauce is what you want. So get rid of that. Moves that out of the way, and you end up with this, look, amazing sort of rich sauce, which is what you want. Now you can take a bit of that to pop into your filling, which is there. Again, no sugar, don't need any of that. Just the quality of the fruit and the sauce. That's the two things you want left over there. Next, we're going to turn our attention to our moulds. Now, the moulds, I'm going to do it in sort of these small moulds over here. Like I said, you can take this process and do it in a larger bowl, that kind of stuff. But we're going to take a little bit of oil and just pop it in here. Just the oil is just some olive oil or vegetable oil. What this does is make this next stage stick to the bottom of the little tins that I've got on here. Now, you can do this in teacups. I said, you just pop that in there, and it just helps the cling film stick. It actually helps you take the cling film out as well, particularly if you're going to do this in a glass bowl, because so often this cling film really does stick to the glass bowl, and it's a nightmare to get out. So if you just line it with oil first, it just makes it a lot easier. You'll see that in a minute. Now, before I get on and do the bread, I'm going to do the only bit of sugar that I've got with this. Now, you can do this time of year, because this is a little bit of sugar work. This is the only bit of sugar in. It's just make it look nice. It's entirely up to you. It's purely optional. How to make your own candy floss. It's just caster sugar in a pan, nothing else. Meanwhile, over here, we've got our white sliced bread. And what we want for that is we want sort of, well, 4 pieces of bread for these 2 oblongs. So you're looking at that kind of thing. You want another one, like that. You're creating these oblong pieces of bread. Now, what I try not to do is waste too much. So you can take that, keep the crust, of course. And then what you want for these is you want a sort of a small circle and a sort of a larger circle. Think of the small circle going in the bottom, which will become the top. And the large circle, or now the top, will become the bottom. And then what we can do is just cut these out like that. So you've got those. Now, you just replicate this. The more you do, that kind of stuff. But the whole key to it is this, is lining it first of all. So once you get to that stage, then you can grab our sauce, which we've got over here. Take the small dish first. Keep your eye on the sugar, because it's just on a medium-style heat. And you can double dip this into the sauce there. And you want to double dip it. The thing about this is, if you don't do that, then that's the process you're having to wait for the summer pudding, because you want the bread to sort of be fully soaked in that sort of sauce, if you know what I mean. If you didn't do that, you'd end up with white bits of bread. So you just brush it off like that, make sure it's dipped in. And then while you're doing this, you just overlap this slightly. It only wants just a couple of mil, because what you don't want to do is, particularly a smaller mold like this, you don't want to make the bread too thick. That's why it's important to use the thin sliced bread, but don't make it too thick. So you just folding that over. You can see over here now, sugar's starting to caramelise. And then I've got this in this mould. So ever so slightly overlapped, which got in there. And then we take our fruit, and you can fill this up with your berries. Now, when you're doing this, make sure you sort of pack it full. Keep your eye on the sugar. You can see it's starting to change colour a little bit. Turn that down a touch, and you can press it all the way down. Now, really, really compress it. Whether you're doing a large one or a small one like this, make sure you pack it full of fruit. That's what you want. Now, this is where you take another bit of the bread, dip it in one side, and then turn it with the undipped side the other side. And when you press it down again, it just seals everything in like that. So it's nice and compact. Right, that sugar is now starting to happen. I can then wash my hands. And then this is where you can either cling film it over like that, and compress it. This is where you can pop it in the freezer now if you wanted to. So if you wanted to freeze this, you can freeze it as it is in the pot like this. Take it out the day before, let it defrost in the pot as well. And then when you want to serve it, or like I said, you can do this straight away. You can take this, you just lift it off. And if you hold the cling film, hold the base of the summer pudding, but hold the cling film like that. If you're doing a larger one, just press it straight down on a plate. But hold the cling film down and lift the mould off. You then end up with a summer pudding. Easy as that. And then when you grab your plate, you can then lift this across. So that's almost ready to serve now, you see. You can see you've got the same effect as if you leave it in the fridge for a couple of days. Over here, I've got the sugar. This is the start of a caramel. You've all seen caramel and stuff like this. I mean, we've got the two Ready Steady Cook mates. This is where, if I knew I was struggling with 20-minute recipe, then with about 2 minutes to go, I used to pull this out the pan, the sugar work, and do spun sugar, and it used to get the vote and used to win. But the worst one, I beat Brian Turner with the trout fillet covered over with a sugar cage and called it Catch the Day, and it still beat him. He's never forgiven me. But look, you just take this sugar and you just cool this down. All you're doing is cool this down in the heat of the pan. Now, interestingly enough, when you're doing this sugar work, sugar's always affected by moisture in the air, so that's why it's a good idea to do this in the summer. Not in the winter, but particularly if you live by the coast, sadly, it is a nightmare, to be honest with you. It really, really is a nightmare to make sugar work by the coast because it's just affected by moisture. And the minute you make it and you turn it into something, it starts to dissolve. So it's not easy by the coast. But look, you take this mixture now and we just go over the top and you just cover this over with the sauce. Nice and simple. Now what you want to do is take the sauce and get rid of that bit on the top, because that's the bit that's going to be the little garnish to go over the top. Because what we can then do is get some clotted cream. Now, I was saying you could use a little bit of basil inside the filling, like I've got with the berries, but you could also put a dollop of clotted cream in the centre if you wanted to. So using a hot spoon, we can take our clotted cream and we can just scoop this up and place that on there. And then you can, or you can do a dollop with it, whatever you want. Then you can take your fruit. We've got some strawberries. Same fruit as what you've got inside, really. Some raspberries. Obviously a little blackberry in there. Some of the red currants. In essence, it is such a simple little dessert, is summer pudding. That's the key to it, is the flavour from it as well. So you've just got the lovely little berries. Little sprig of mint, like that. Just sits on there. And if you wanted to, just a dusting of icing sugar, just over the top. But there you have it. Nice and simple, little summer pudding. In essence, it's made in, what, minutes, really, when you're doing it like that. It's really simple. Like I said, you can freeze it, but then you can turn your attention to this. And then you can start to do a little bit of sugar work. This is just a little bit of practice, a little bit of fun. You can take your sugar, as it cools down, you end up with it getting solid. So don't worry about that. What you do is you put it back on the heat, and you can see now, as sugar cools, it goes rock solid. People panic at this stage. If you just put it back on the heat, you'll see how quickly it'll just come back. The temptation is you want to stir it all the time. Try not to agitate the sugar too much, because look, it'll come back straight away. And then as it comes back, you can then start to turn it into different things. So you just, as soon as it starts to melt like that, take it off the heat. Because sugar goes through different stages while it gets hotter, before it gets to a caramel. And as it cools down, before it gets solid, you get different stages where you can utilise it. So this is just a normal steel, and the sugars are allowed to cool down like that, and you just spin it around to the steel. Anybody watching this, it'll be a blast from the past. I'm usually wearing a bandana at this point in time, and you've got Fern Britton shouting at me with 10 seconds to go. But you lift that off. And you just pop that onto there. And the more time you have, you can do more and more and more, and the more confident you get, you can get one of these. So what you want is a rolling pin that's well used. You want a sort of a well-oiled rolling pin, and that oil comes from the fact that you used it a lot. But you can then take this, and as the sugar starts to set, you can then spin it round your rolling pin, like that. And you can just take this strand now, look. And if you take that and lift it off, oh, and just pop that over the top of there. But there you have it. Whether you do that or just leave as it is and just with a sprig of mint, dusting or not ice and sugar, it's just a nice, simple dessert. And I love doing this every few years on the show because it utilises all the amazing fresh fruit we have at this time of the year and beyond. But there we have it, my version of a classic summer pudding. Now, if there's anything you'd like to learn about, a little about Scass, then do get in touch with me, see if we can help out right here on the show. Time now for a quick break, but join me again in a couple of minutes to enjoy another delicious plate of food from Chef Lesley Waters. I'll see you in a bit. Welcome back. Now we're laying on a classical dish for a classical singer of sea bass for Carly Paoli. That's coming up next. But first, I'm here with Paul Rankin, and we're ready to tuck into a dish by a chef whose passion for teaching has helped hundreds of her students and many millions of viewers around the globe. It's the brilliant Lesley Waters. What do we have you? So what are you going to be doing? I can see you've blown the budget. No wonder we've all got a little bit of fish and you've got pasta.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to talk about this dish.
Did you?
Yes, I did. OK, so we're doing a stroganoff.
Stroganoff, OK.
I just want to say that the cuts of meat that you can use, my husband likes it with fillet steak. Frankly, I think that's a bit of a waste. So you could use skirt if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Rump if you wanted to.
You've got to be careful the way you cook that, though.
You have. If you're using that, I would...
The skirt or the bavette, you've got to be... Yeah.
You've got to be a bit careful. Slice it very, very thinly, and it will need simmering in the gravy.
Very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And, like, rare, blue, medium rare, or just cook it a little bit longer.
Yeah, and slice it as thin as you possibly can.
Against the grain as well.
Against the grain, absolutely. Now, normally, stroganoff is served with noodles or rice or mashed potato or even rusty. But I'm going to do it today with good old bread, bruschetta, which is going into the oven.
Yeah.
Originally, they used to smash it to get it really, really thin, but I quite like it really quite rare in the middle. Okay. So, obviously, the thicker you cut it, the better. Stroganoff comes from, well, I reckon it's a bit of a French dish, because if you think about it, it's creamy, it's almost like a beef fricassee, really.
Well, it's classic 1970s, 1980s, retro
yeah,
sort of
but it was actually created in the 1800s for the family of Stroganoffs, who were very rich, incredibly rich.
Right.
You do need to get the meat in at a high heat. Thank you, my darling. In that goes. In goes your meat.
Yeah.
And literally, really quickly, salt, pepper going in there. Hardly any time. That can go, James.
Yeah.
Go, Lesley, go!
Give it a shake.
But I'll look after it. You wash your hands.
All right, let me wash my hands. Could you slice the mushrooms for me,
I will
please?
do that, not a problem. I've
That'd
chopped the
be
shallots
lovely.
for you as well.
Thank you.
Black pepper going in as well. I'll turn this up.
lovely.
Turn this up a little bit.
It's one of those dishes, though, isn't it, that everyone really loves to eat?
I think so, yeah. Well, if you think like steak Diane and stuff like that, there is dishes that, you know, the coq au vin, the chicken Kievs, is that we sat there looking at a menu behind you and, you know, Floyd's got chicken Kiev on the menu, all that ratatouille and all that sort of stuff. I love all that sort of stuff.
It's like when fashion changes, we tend to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah.
But good taste is always good taste.
Well, it's not until you go to places like France where they still keep those classics still on their brasserie menus,
meat's
isn't it?
coming out.
Right, OK.
OK, really quickly.
Shallots.
And then a nice bit of butter, actually. It would help if I did that, because I know how much you like your butter. Shallots going in, please, James.
Yes, boss. No problem.
Lovely. In they go. Shallot or red onion. Do you know, I was saying to James the other day, the first Ready Steady Cook I ever did was with you.
Oh, no! What did I do?
You were really kind to me. Incredibly, incredibly kind.
How did you get... Because I know how we talked about how I got started with it, with Floyd and stuff like that. How did you guys get the phone call? Because you must have got it through your Michelin star thing from Ireland, was it? Was that how it started?
I can't remember. I have no idea. No idea.
I remember they asked me to come and audition, and I couldn't go, so I turned it down. And my mum said, You did what? You turned Ready, Steady, Cook down? Anyway, when they asked me again, I went. And this time I knew what I was letting myself in for.
I mean, we sort of forget. We kind of took it for granted a little bit, but it was such a huge show.
I know. Did you put garlic in there?
The figures that we were getting
14.5 million.
in the afternoon,
I know.
or for the
On a
celebrity
Friday
ones,
night.
is the equivalent of you know, an evening hit.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
Big evening.
absolutely.
And when we did Celebrity, it was the top light entertainment show on BBC
Yeah,
that year.
yeah.
So it was like the Strictly of that year. You know?
The Strictly of that year.
A bunch of idiot chefs fumbling about.
You know, when I went for that audition the second time, I'd just come back from a press trip to Finland, and I had a bottle of Finland and vodka, and I remember I was so nervous, and I think I won, but the only reason I won, Paul, because I was a new girl on the block. And I got home and I took the vodka out of the freezer.
Yeah.
And it was very strong. And my husband came home, I always remember this, and I was leaning up against the fridge and he went, "Darling, how did it go?" And I looked at him and went, "It went really, really well." And I don't remember anything else. Okay, right,
So you got the mushrooms right in there. This is
so
the shallots.
shallots, mushrooms, garlic. Thank you, my darling. A little teaspoon over here. Not too much flour.
Do you want some thyme in there as well now?
I want some thyme in
That's
there
quite a
too.
lot
Just
of
a little
thyme.
bit of... That's lovely. Little bit of flour going in there. You just not too much, or she'll end up with glue. All right, so, James, you can put the beer in now, mate.
It's too late. I'm drinking it now.
Yeah, okay, that'll teach you, won't it?
Come on, share, man.
A little bit there.
Go on.
What is it?
Lovely,
dear?
stop.
The great thing about this show is it's
Stop.
you know, it's like drinking early in the morning is not even frowned upon on this show.
Look at that. Look at that. Right. So you got
Okay,
the beer in, then you got the
I got
stock.
the beer, then I got the stock. Now, what I want you to do is there's some Stilton here. I want you to break off about a third of that Stilton into the bowl, mix it with some sour cream or creme fraiche, and also some Dijon mustard.
That's enough. Enough still.
Yeah, I think so, darling. That looks lovely. OK, sugar. We're going to add a little bit of sugar to
Sugar
this.
into this.
Yes, because of the beer.
Do you want a little bit more water in this?
Well, I think that looks perfect.
Happy with that? All
I
right.
think that really does look perfect.
OK, there you go.
A little bit of salt, and I think we're almost
Sauce is
ready.
quick. And then the idea is you put the beef back in then.
Yeah, I'm going to put the beef back in now, so you can get... Is the bread nice and toasted?
Yeah.
So beef going back in. And obviously any juices.
So if you were
Need to
doing
go
this
back
for a
in.
dinner party, would
You could get ahead.
Yeah, how would you get ahead?
I'd sear off the beef, make the sauce, and at the last minute you can just reheat the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know?
So it's a good dish for that, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a good dish for that.
And do you put the creme fraiche in there, or...
No, what we're going to do is if you get the bread out for me, my darling,
Keep
that
going
would
on
be
about this
great.
bread. I ain't got it out yet. Sorry about that.
Do you like my new dish? I got this from a charity shop. I have washed it 10 times. OK?
Yeah.
I quite like a charity shop these days.
I love a charity.
I love plates and stuff like that. It's just...
But I buy books in charity shops because, you know, why do we, you know... Let's recycle. Let's get...
I buy these and I buy rolling pins.
Good man.
Oh, my
I
goodness.
absolutely...
Look at
can't
that,
walk.
James Martin. He's down on his porch.
No, I buy these. I love because you know what the feel of an old rolling pin. It's like the feel of an old chopping board. It's the oil on it. It's just I love it anyway.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. And
I'll
I
switch
think...
this off for you.
Yeah, I've done it, actually, darling.
Go on.
I'm getting used to your hot cooker. It is absolutely burning, burning hot. No, not yet, not yet.
I thought you were going to say something else there, but...
Me. All right, so I'm serving
off
this...
camera.
I'm serving this on bruschetta. But obviously, as I said before, you could serve this with mash, noodles, rice, whatever is your thing. Right, OK, so let's now just do that.
That looks delicious.
And then let's have that naughty cream. Where's that? Oh, it's there.
I'm listening. It's right next to you.
And then a little bit of naughty cream over the top. Or, of course, you could serve it separately if you wanted to. Yeah. And then just a little... Sorry, darling. A little hat of watercress, because I love watercress. I know you do as well.
I don't know. It's grown less than 20 yards away from here. This stuff. It's lovely.
And I might just move those just slightly like that.
So
And
give us the name of this dish then.
This is British beef stroganoff.
Lesley Waters. Right, there you are, Mr. Rankin. There's double portion for you.
I know.
I'm gonna have it chefy style out of the pan, if that's
Lesley,
all right.
it not only looks delicious, it smells wonderful too.
Good. Make sure you get a bit of everything, so you get
So quick as well.
It's quick, it's fast. Is the beef still a little bit on the pink
Beer's
side?
lovely with it, no?
Yeah, I think the beer's good.
The beer's delicious with it.
The whole thing's delicious, man.
But it is, like you said, those are all classics and stuff. There's all TV shows, they're all recipes and stuff
It's
like
the
that.
stuff you want to eat, you know.
It's delicious, absolutely
I quite
delicious.
like some chips with it, maybe.
Oh, yeah. Actually, chips would be really good.
All right, just give me a
Yeah.
minute. I've got to go to the link in a minute. Right, anyway. Then I'll dive into the freezer. Right, Lesley, everybody. Right, we've got time for one more recipe, possibly with some chips, this morning. Well, join me again in a couple of minutes where we're serving a mouth-watering plate of sea bass ceviche for all my guests, including Carly Paoli. Right, see you after the break. Where's the chips? Welcome back to the final part of the show, sadly. But I'm back in the kitchen with Lesley, Paul, and of course, Carly Paoli. Right. Other dishes that I was going to do, you sent a list of your favourite foods, but I thought we'd do a little ceviche for this one, something slightly lighter. We'll do it with sea bass, because I know you're a big fan of Oriental food, you guys are as well. So all three of you, I thought I'd just do a nice little ceviche, little yuzu mayonnaise. I'm going to start off with a little yuzu mayonnaise, and we're just going to basically make a standard mayonnaise using egg yolks. Keep the egg whites for meringues and bits and pieces, a little bit of mustard, and then I'm just going to blend that with some vegetable oil. And then we add this amazing thing called yuzu juice, which I know, Mr. Rankin, you can describe what it is, what the flavour
Yuzu
is.
kind of like a lime on turbocharged, super duper aromatic Satsuma type aromas coupled with
I could
lime.
have put it better myself.
You know,
yeah.
it is astonishingly vibrant and kind of sexy. You know, it's amazing.
You just said it all in 2 words-ish. It is superb, and it's got this amazing flavour. If you haven't tasted it before, I'll let you pass it around, but you can open this up, just take a little bit on your finger. It is just the flavour of it is unbelievable.
The plastic thing's still on here, Jay.
But you got to take it off.
You want some help? Oh, right.
There you go. Yes.
Automatic.
So we're just going to make a standard mayonnaise like I've got in here. So you just blend it up, and if you add the oil just gently like that, it'll start to emulsify. If it starts to separate and split, stop. Take the mixture out, put a couple of egg yolks back in, and pour the split mixture back in gently, and then start back again with the oil. But you gradually add the oil. Now, if you taste a little bit of this on the end of your finger...
The reaction was,
It is.
I could see the sparkle. I want more.
It is incredible, though, isn't it? The flavour. It's almost, you know, the finger limes you get, the little limes with that little, almost like caviar, a little bit of flavour, the citrus in it.
And then the innocent Lesley said that would be good with tequila.
She's changed. She was, when I first knew her, she was neat vodka. That's when I first knew her. So we're just going to blend that, and then you add a little bit of this amazing yuzu juice to create this. You can see it's nice and thick now, and you add the yuzu juice to make this sort of simple little mayonnaise sort of thing that we can then incorporate that into our wonderful little dish. But this stuff is just incredible. So a little bit of the yuzu juice, and you can see very, very simply you end up with a gorgeous creamy dressing like that. That's going to be great with our little ceviche. Now, we mentioned your album earlier. You can recap the album. Give us the name of it, because we've actually got a copy of it. I forgot to show it earlier, but...
It's called The Movie Collection.
The Movie Collection. This is the album. There you go. Both of you were listening outside. I mean, fabulous performance, isn't it?
Can I see the cover?
Of course, it's a mock-up, all right? Before you open it up and nick the CD inside...
I just want to see the picture.
There you go.
Watch him.
Now, this is where my family live in Italy.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Which is Puglia, is
This
it?
is Puglia, so this is a little town called Spongano, and we did nick somebody's steps to just take the picture on.
Your mum's been telling me it's got the best food in Italy.
Yes, we're not biased. It really has. No, it's great. All my family are fantastic cooks. It's sadly something I didn't inherit.
Isn't a member of your family... This is when you do a little bit of research. This is when, hopefully, the research that you've been reading and stuff like that is all right. Wasn't a member of your family quite a famous chef at one point? He
was a chef for the Shire of Persia.
Yeah.
But he had, this is Zio Mario, he had a wonderful tenor voice. So the Shire, is that what you'd say, would then also bring him in to start singing songs. At the time, Mario Lanza was a big name, so he'd bring him in to start singing all the Mario Lanza rep. So he had the most amazing house that was full of all these incredible gifts.
Wonderful.
So, your immediate family, were they singers as well? Or I know your dad was a lorry driver, and your mum's now what, kind of your manager and a bit of everything.
Yeah, Mum travels all over the world with me, as does Dad. So I've left Dad at home in Puglia at the minute with my dog Fred.
Right.
Mum will travel. You know, I'm about to go off to Calabria to do a concert, and she'll always be backstage with me, as such. But they're not musical. They won't mind me saying that. But from my grandfather's side, he was a lovely singer. In the house that we used to spend our summers in, I'd have all my aunts and uncles there as well, and my cousin plays the piano accordion, the other one sings, so it was a noisy house.
What a wonderful way to grow
up. It was
up.
a noisy house.
Amazing.
Right, look, we're going to make another one of these piping bags again. I can't believe I'm doing this again, but this is another piping bag. We're going to use some of this yuzu mayonnaise. Now, just to recap what we're going here, we've got our sea bass, lime juice, lime zest. Over the top of there, I've got some chilli, I've got some mint, I've got some coriander. And what I've done is I've used a little bit of this. Now, my supplier said this is the smallest bottle you can buy.
I don't believe that.
Apparently it is. Now, this is an amazing mixture. It's a combination of several ingredients. It's a combination of yuzu juice, soy, it's ponzu. So, you know, that's amazing citrusy mixture. And you can buy it in a bottle. It's just, you can have a taste of that. Just take a little bit on your finger, but you just have a little taste of it, because it tastes amazing.
I'm not quite sure how we
Just
do
put it
it.
on your finger like that.
Sort it out.
No, I'll put it in here. Look,
Yeah,
give
look,
you a little bowl.
I just don't want to get it all over your lovely kitchen.
All right, well, there you go.
Right.
So you take-
I was wondering, do you have to be careful about having a big meal before a performance? I mean, is that an absolute no-no?
I'd always want my dinner before I go and sing. I would, yeah.
Good girl.
So might be
it
Have a
unusual.
taste.
So you don't need to be too careful about that sort of stuff.
There's certain foods that you
I mean,
must
do
have
you
to
need to be-
avoid, though. Is there that?
Do you need to be careful about dairy? Or...
Actually, dairy's not such a problem. Maybe anything spicy, I
Yeah.
might give a miss. But yeah, it's normally. I wouldn't go and have a big 3-course lunch and then go out.
And do you have special teas to lubricate your throat?
I have my honey.
You have your
honey and hot water goes with me everywhere. My little honey sweets are in all my pockets, wherever I can find them. But yeah, that's.
This is where I go wrong. I have a Twix and a Mars bar. That's what I have.
I think you ought to
one of
take
those
a...
as well in the
I
dressing
think you
room.
ought to take
Other
a flask
chocolates
of
are
that.
available.
That would be the stuff.
That is astonishing. That
Honestly, out of a bottle,
for a bought product, that is astonishing.
ready-made, I think that is just.
How much would that bottle be, then, do you think, to buy? You got any idea?
The accountant looks after that at the
I
restaurant.
could drink that.
I could...
Here,
It's salty.
Oh, a bit
It
more.
It would be good with a shot of vodka in it, almost like a, it's almost like a salty olivey kind of thing.
Dirty martini.
Like a dirty.
You're making up all
Have
your
you
own
got vodka,
cocktails here,
James?
aren't you?
Well, no. Leslie's drank it all.
Yeah.
But look, we just got in here. I like the creaminess in this little ceviche sort of thing. And the idea being, you can then start to build up flavours. I mean, you guys all know, you start to build up little flavours, little textures, so we get a little bit of radish. And whenever you do this, the director likes to get really nice and close and just watch the end of my finger disappear off in the mandolin at the same time. But you just take...
We call those finger slicers in the restaurant.
Yeah, exactly.
Where's the finger slicer?
So you got a little bit of the radish. I mean, I love fresh radish anyway, but when you grow it at home, the pepperiness of it's amazing. But you can just take a few bits of these.
Very underrated, the radish.
I think the flavour, the pepperiness and everything else is just ace. But you're just building up textures, flavours, that kind of stuff when you're doing this. That goes on there. So are you going to be touring as well? Is that something you want to do? Because I know you toured, you mentioned it last year, you were touring in cathedrals as well with Alan Jones and stuff like that. Is that something you want to do more of and bits and pieces? What's that?
Well, I mean, I've got performances coming up, so I'm heading out to Calabria this evening, where I'm doing a concert in a really beautiful spot called Lockery. And then I'm off to perform at the opening of the Ryder Cup. So and that's
Ryder
another.
Cup.
Yes.
That's random, the Ryder Cup.
No. Sporting event, you know, classical music, sport goes hand in hand. So I'm going to be singing the Italian national anthem, and there'll be a flyover from the Italian equivalent of the Red Arrows.
Yeah.
So that'll be good fun.
It does sound exhausting.
Do you need someone to carry your bags?
Yeah, it's Mother. Mother's carrying it. I've been seeing her all day. She's doing it all day. But look, there you have your... We're nearly finished now. Look at this little bit of this stuff that you tried as well. And then finally, what we're going to do is, of course, you've just got a little bit of coriander over the top, but that's the radish, a little bit of everything. And there we have it. My little ceviche. Best of luck with the new album. My work for today is almost finished. Done. I'm just going to finish these off with these things. These are seaweed crisps. Now these are
You look
another
like a
little
naughty
thing.
little schoolboy.
Well, you
getting those out
just
of
find
tin.
stuff, and
Yeah.
when you find stuff, you just go, yeah, this is amazing. These are these little seaweed crisps, and they just taste amazing. They're sort of sweet, but they're just delicious when you sort of take them and then you can chop them up. And I'm just going to chop them up.
Have you had these?
No, I don't think I have.
And then you sprinkle them just over
Nice
the
bit of
top.
texture.
Another little texture over the top.
Sort of mysterious.
That's one for you.
Thank you.
And
That
then
looks
So
just
beautiful,
brilliant.
isn't it? Absolutely.
Work of art
one for
there.
you. And then take another one, sprinkle it over the
I'm
top.
really looking forward to eating the whole thing.
Yeah.
You guys are not getting any.
just taste these as they are. Yeah. Mr. Rankin, there you go. Pass you yours, but taste it.
Salty, sweet.
It's. I think they're just amazing, these things. And we just slice that over the top.
How interesting, yeah.
Really interesting, isn't it? There you go. We'll dive into that. Tell me what you think.
Can we start?
You can start. Go for it.
Wonderful, James.
That delicious? Just fresh, light. Yeah.
It's almost sashimi-like as well.
Yeah, it is, but it's just the fish is so good as well. But that's a bit of Cornish sea bass as well. There you go. Well, that's it. That's all we've got time for today, sadly. A massive thank you to all my guests: Lisa Newsham, Michael Keynes, Paul Rankin, Lesley Walters, and of course the one and only Carly Paoli. Your flight leaves in a bit. We'll see you at the same time next Saturday morning. We'll be joined by chefs Dipna Anand and her dad, plus Daniel Galmiche, an adventure and an explorer. Simon Reed will be here. Until then, take care, stay safe. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye for now. It's nice, isn't it?